3, 2, 1, recording. Welcome to the David the Dog Trainer podcast, episode 67, 65.
65?
65.
You almost went back in time there.
Yeah, I'm like, where are we at? How many are we at? Is it 65? Is that where we're at?
It is 65, yeah.
All right, we're 65 deep. Here we are. Josh and I just were chatting about the podcast numbers, how many downloads we've been getting lately. Steady growth. Yeah. Pumped on it. You know, I truthfully, when we started this podcast, did not know what the trajectory of growth would be for it. It started very slow when we were putting them out, where we'd get like 30 views an episode, stuff like that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I was just telling him, like, yesterday alone, we got over 30 downloads. Yeah. That's sweet, you know?
Take it.
Are those freaking the biggest podcast in the world numbers? Absolutely not. But guess what? 30 people yesterday. We didn't release an episode yesterday. We released an episode a week ago.
Yeah.
And 30 people yesterday downloaded the podcast. That is cool.
Yeah.
I'm pumped on that. In the last 30 days, there were 800 downloads.
Yeah.
That's fucking awesome. That's only four episodes came out in the last month, in the last 30 days.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And 800 people downloaded. Hell yeah.
Yeah. That's
Thank you for listening.
Yes, very much. Thank you.
So today is going to be so I want to start doing, I was thinking about this the other day, right? So a lot of podcasts that I listen to or shows I watch on YouTube and stuff like that kind of keep you up to date with the current things going on in whatever industry it is, whether it's politics or sports or this or that. It's always what's current in the world right now, right? Yeah. So we're going to start doing periodic, like, current things that I'm seeing in dog training episodes. You know, the last couple episodes we did, we're talking about old things that I really like. You know, we're just kind of digging around all over the place with this and just trying to provide value to you guys, right?
Yep.
So there's been some things I've noticed in the last week or so, I'll say. A video in particular came out 3 days ago by Zak George. We did one episode where we talked about Zak George, obviously. Zak George, for people that aren't familiar, is probably the single most followed dog trainer on all of YouTube. He's probably the most YouTube famous dog trainer out there with 3.5 million subscribers. Dude is popular. He's a positive only trainer, force-free trainer, whatever you want to call it. Obviously, puts out tons and tons of videos. And truthfully, like, so we've reviewed a couple of his videos, and obviously I don't agree with his training, but he's always seemed like not a horrible guy, I guess. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like from all the videos I've watched, it's not like he's out there like, fuck this guy, fuck your training style, this, that. He just kind of seemed like he stayed in his own lane, was like, I do force-free training because this is what I want to do. And again, I don't agree with it, but he's kind of felt like he stayed in his lane. Mm-hmm. He put out a video 3 days ago, and I have not watched this video yet. Ooh. So I don't know anything about what's in this video. But the video is titled, I'm shocked that this video is controversial, what I think about so-called balanced dog training. Balanced dog training referring to what we do, right? Using all of the quadrants of learning, using food, using leashes, using prong collars, using knee collars, using toys, using basically everything under the sun there is to train it, right? And we've talked numerous times about why we do balanced dog training. And I've seen this video shared around a lot in the last couple days since it's been out, obviously. And a lot of people are not into it. A lot of people are sharing it around like, look, this is why positive only training is the only way, this, that. And, you know, it kind of goes against what I was just talking about like what I kind of thought of him, like, individually, right? Mm-hmm. Just based on the comment, what I think about so-called balanced dog training. So we're going to dig into this video. We're going to see what's up with it, and we're going to provide some commentary for it. And we'll see, this may or may not take the whole episode. This is a fairly long video. It's like 22 minutes long. And, you know, depending on how much commentary that I have to it, this could take quite a while. So we're going to get right into this, and we're going to see what we think about what Zak George thinks about so-called balanced dog training.
Oh, boy.
Let's go.
Biscuit series, and we're almost at the end of it. And I have been so proud of everything that Biscuits has accomplished so far. We've had some rocky moments. No! We've had some smooth moments, but all of the moments have been completely enjoyable. Being a YouTube dog trainer with a good-sized following opens me up to a fair amount of critiques.
You see that?
Yeah.
I don't know what the deal is with that. Whatever, I don't care.
I welcome, and I honestly think it's probably one of the best gifts I could receive. But today, I'm gonna go there. I know a lot of people who watch my videos have puppies and they're looking for a great way to keep their training on track. you might want to consider signing up for Pup Box. And I mean, when you're new to training a puppy,
The advertisement.
This guy.
Right away. Okay, so we're starting strong. So the last time we watched this guy's videos, every 4 seconds there was a freaking ad or an advertisement for
Literally.
something. So
You should try the Pup Box.
challenging things is knowing what to work on when. And
really
that's the
understand why it's
problem
doing
that
this.
Pup Box tries to help you with. Every single month,
guy's
they're going
real
to give you
smooth with the
training
ads,
advice
though.
based on your puppy's
just slides right in. You don't even
specific
realize
needs.
it's
And
a
you get a ton
freaking
of
ad.
information on a card like this,
Yeah.
both sides. So for example, this card
Gotta
comes
give it
with
to
a
him.
3-month box. So a 3-month-old dog, the priorities are developing a bond, focusing on positive reinforcement training, how to address potty training, and of course the inevitable puppy biting. Look at her, she's chewing on the carpet right now. This is a great toy. We're gonna get her interested in this instead. Now, she's interested in that and not my carpet. You get these ultra high quality treats as well. Every item in a pup box is designed to help you train your dog. Pumpkin flavored teething rings. That's what it's like getting a pup box when you have a young dog. You're like, this is exactly what I've been missing in my life. If you want to try Pup Box, they're going to give you half off your first box when you sign
50%.
up for a plan by going to my special link, pupbox.com/Zach, and using code ZACH. I'll have the info below. There's this seemingly endless debate in dog training
there it
on
is.
what methods should be used in what specific contexts. Training dogs is objectively a scientific field. And that means critical thinking and the implementation of the scientific method are the best tools that we have to achieve success.
Starting right away with the science debate here.
Yeah.
All right. Before he even goes there, let's talk about science for a minute here. Right.
You gotta prepare yourself.
Operant conditioning and learning theory.
Okay.
Scientific terms refer to the 4 quadrants of learning: positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, positive punishment, negative punishment. So before he says we only use scientific methods, right? I'll tell you what they actually are saying when they say that.
Okay.
All 4 of those quadrants are scientifically proven methods, meaning they do work, right? The argument is not whether or not you're using scientific methods or non-scientific methods.
Yeah.
The argument is which of those is more effective, right? They throw around, we use science-based methods, referring to a handful of studies that were done that show that the use of positive reinforcement to teach a behavior is more effective than the use of negative reinforcement to teach a behavior.
Yeah.
I've said this a million times. I agree, right? If we are working with a puppy, because he's using a puppy here right now, right? And we're using positive reinforcement to train that puppy, you're going to develop a great relationship with the dog. You're going to teach the dog a good work ethic. You're going to have the dog eager to work for you, and they're going to learn and process these behaviors much faster than if we tried to teach all of those things using corrections and using negative reinforcement and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Right? I agree with that 1,000,000%. And you can get into the variables of, well, what if the dog doesn't have food drive or this or that? The point, before he even goes there, the point balanced dog trainers are saying, or at least the good ones, right, is that, yes, we agree with that. We want to teach using positive reinforcement. But in the real world, there are outside distractions and outside variables that require us to proof our dog training around those distractions using consequences.
Yeah.
That's it.
And it's true that different trainers are going to have different goals and different outlooks when it comes to teaching dogs. Our goal is to bring about optimal behavior without compromising a dog's quality of life or having unintended consequences. Now, in the 18 years that I've been training dogs, I've encountered things that have caused me to reevaluate and alter the way that I teach dogs, as well as how I advise you guys. In fact, the more that I train dogs, the more I realize how much I don't know. And I embrace that. But being a professional dog trainer, part of my obligation is to participate in the spirit of peer review. And I think we all do this in the interest of
The other
progress.
thing too, peer-reviewed studies. There has to be peer-reviewed studies on this and that and this and that.
Yeah. You know, go ahead. Sorry.
No. That's it. I mean, that's the other thing they argue. But the only people that are doing the peer-reviewed studies are people that are in a box.
Yeah.
Right? Not people in the real world that are doing peer-reviewed studies of the actual results of your dog training.
I was just gonna say he really reminds me of like Steve from Blue's Clues. You know,
Just give me Steve vibes. It's the personality and everything too. You know.
Yeah.
So there's nothing personal about this. I certainly don't take it personally when I'm criticized. Now, when we use the term balanced dog training, technically that means using a combination of methods that involve rewards as well as corrections. It can be easily argued that every dog trainer on earth is using some level of correction or punishment in their dog training. After all, limiting a dog's access to chasing a squirrel across the street can be defined as being unpleasant to a dog. So by that measure, well, I guess I'm a balanced dog trainer. But what I'm talking about is using physically aversive methods like leash pops or using electric collars, proactively delivering an unpleasant feeling to discourage undesired behavior. And the thing is, these approaches represent like a huge percentage of my dog training peers. And so it's not like it's just a fringe segment of the dog training community. I always have to say this when I talk about this topic. My critiquing or criticism here is not aimed at everyday pet guardians out there. It is aimed at professional dog trainers who advise you how to train your dog. And deep down, I am glad that they're there. Nobody gets into this profession who doesn't have a deep love for dogs and want to help them become better. And I totally get it. I mean, if the aim is to stop an unwanted behavior with a quick, prompt correction, and that works in the moment, it certainly appears as though there's benefit there. I mean, if a dog's pulling on a leash and you pop them with a choke chain to discourage the pulling, and the dog seems to stop pulling, well, great, it works. However, it's
the use of seems.
Yeah, seems.
It does, right? Like it does. If my dog, we posted a video on YouTube, quick plug here.
Oh, yeah.
We posted a video just yesterday, I think, or the day before, of how to stop jumping now. We have a new dog in right now, this dog Leo, that is a goddamn freaking psychopath of a jumper. He's a bananas boxer, right?
Yeah.
And it was funny. I had Bridget, I told her, I was like, just ignore this dog for as long as you can and see if he stops jumping. She ignored him for like 3 minutes, and he was still like climbing all over her. Right? It was ridiculous, right? So like the non-reinforcement doesn't work in stopping his behavior. I stopped his jumping in 1 minute.
Yeah.
1 minute. 1 minute. Yep. I didn't seem to stop the jumping. I stopped the jumping.
It was done.
Unintended consequences of this type of training that are just not discussed enough. A dog's experiences shape how they live. And relying on a strategy that has the possibility to cause a dog to behave fearful or to be intimidated is bound to catch up with us. Now, I understand that is not the intention of trainers who train this way. However, it does appear that this is the likely consequence of using these methods in many, many cases. Now, intuitively, this makes sense. After all, we know that if something unpleasant happens to a dog after they do something, that's likely to reduce the odds of that behavior happening in the future. I agree with that. But it turns out there's more than one way to get dogs to stop doing things we don't like. Now, one of the most valuable things that I've learned as a dog trainer is to beware of intuition. Hypothetically, let's say you appear on planet Earth with no education, you're just here. It'd be very easy to conclude, hey, the Earth is flat. And you'd look up at those lights in the sky and probably conclude they're just that, lights in the sky, not realizing that there are other star systems with their own set of...
Is he actually equating this to people that think the Earth is flat?
I think so.
Something that you literally, like...
Yeah.
There are two very, very, very different things that I don't see the correlation between.
And I go, okay.
And on and on. There's nothing intuitive about that. I think we can all agree there are so many areas in life where we have no idea what it is that we don't know. In fact, we can't know what we don't know until we know it. And this point exactly is what, to me, is at the heart of so much dysfunction in this whole dog training industry. Surely you guys have experienced this in other areas of your life. I mean, the more you learn about a subject, the more you realize how much you actually don't know about it. Now, if you've been following this series with Biscuits the puppy so far, you'll know that teaching her how to accept her crate and be comfortable in it has been quite the challenge.
As a long time
an ad
parent,
for that crate right away as soon as they show it. Wow.
One of the things that I want to show her is how to stay at the crate door when I open it. But you can imagine if she's been in there for an hour or two, she might be really excited to come out. And I want to teach her proper conduct on exiting the crate. One powerful example of positive reinforcement training that I'm hoping to illustrate in this lesson is how we don't simply get Biscuits to tolerate the crate, but to prefer being in her crate instead of out of it. Let's see where we are. Let's do a baseline. She goes in there. Great. My objective here is to have her stay while I open the door. That's what she does naturally. So right there, when I open that door, I want her to think, sit, stay. See the scratching right there? See, she's a little frustrated probably. That's what I think that means. Good. So I'm going to try to bring down the frustration.
Let's use the crate as an example here, right? Because I did a really interesting lesson the other day with somebody, right?
Okay.
So we have this dog that I'm working with right now.
Yeah.
Has bad crate anxiety, right? So we're working through the crate anxiety. We're getting to the bottom of like what really is the problem. And the problem is that when the owner leaves, right? For the first 20 minutes, 30 minutes, the dog is okay. It lays down, paces around a little bit, stuff like that. But somewhere like midway through her being gone, the dog goes into full-on meltdown. Full-on meltdown, screaming, hyperventilating, this, that, like absolute psychopath behavior, right?
Yeah.
So what he's doing here right now is crate drills. We call them crate drills, right? The first step of working through crate anxiety is getting the dog understanding how to get into the crate on command, how to wait when the door opens, creating some discipline around the crate so they're not viewing the crate as just this box that restrains them. They're seeing it no different than any of their other commands to neutralize some of their association with it, right? This dog, we've done plenty of crate drills with, right? Dog will do the crate drills great. We can put the dog in a crate, right? We can close the door. We can go outside. We could wait there for a little bit. We can come back in. We could open the door. Dog will wait, right? We could do all of those things. Mostly done using food, right? Not a whole lot of correction, in the process, right? And this owner has tried to do this stuff for a very long time, right? But guess what? When real life kicks in and the dog realizes and sees the conditioned associations of, oh, wow, you're actually getting your shoes on and grabbing your keys and leaving the house. And you're actually not just gone for 5 minutes. You're gone for 4 hours now, right? The dog melts down still.
Yeah.
We can do these drills all day long. And in a video format, we could say, look how tolerant of the crate I made this puppy in this session, right? Look how I did it with just food. This is great. I have no problem with doing, those are beneficial, right? Yeah. It doesn't help you once you're 4 hours away from the dog and the dog realizes you're not there, gets himself all jacked up, and then you get home and try to do the crate drill when you get home, but with the dog is in such a state of arousal that they can't focus in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is the counteracting points of all this kind of stuff. Is he's trying to use this as an example to why you could fix this crate anxiety using positive reinforcement, where what I'm telling you is the dog realizes that right now in this moment when you're doing this session, they're in a box, they're in a controlled environment, he's not going to actually leave, and there's nothing to be perceived as a threat yet.
That makes sense.
Level, yes. I'm going to immediately look for reasons to say yes to keep her engaged. See, on one hand, I could accept older and worse information like, I don't know, I'm the alpha, you have to be in that crate, and you just need to tolerate it because those are the rules and that's the way you have to learn. Of course, we know these days that accepting the outdated be the alpha or the pack leader is a long outdated concept. And of course, there's tons of scientific literature to back this up. But again, the goal isn't simply, hey, just tolerate being in that crate and be good. We want to address the underlying emotional state of Biscuits.
Yes. Also discussing from a scientific standpoint here, the be the alpha and pack leaders and outdated scientifically proven wrong concept. That's not a clear scientific term, right?
Yeah.
Like you could throw it around but all the time, but like every trainer has a different meaning behind what dominance is, what alpha is, what leadership is, this, that. And those are just broad concepts we use to describe our emotions.
Yeah.
They have nothing to do with the actual training that we're doing.
No.
Right? Forget all of that. Push that to the side for a minute. Again, the methods used that are causing you to be the alpha or be the leader or be the pack, leader or whatever it may be, are the scientific things of positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, positive punishment, negative punishment. That's it. So they are scientific.
Good girl. Give her a quick review. Okay, come. Yes. Good. Lots of things get you treats. Here. Good. I'm going to break this down into smaller steps to help her understand. Yes. By not pushing her to frustration and also while looking for smaller successes, we can make progress without risking the setbacks. Yes. Do you see how I'm trying to avoid her failing at all? In that example, we literally had the door open for a split second before she could react and provided her with something she liked, a piece of her meal, before she could even attempt to run out of the crate. We've gotten her comfortable with being in the crate. I'm throwing down a couple of kibbles there. Yes, I'm catching her succeeding while opening the door. Failing would be her going out of the crate on purpose. So right now, for this training lesson, I'm trying to teach her the concept of coming out only with permission. Okay, good. Okay, not quite there yet. She anticipated more than I'd like. I'm trying to avoid closing the door to prevent her from running out because I want her to think more. See how I'm doing it a bit more realistically as we continue on with the training session? So let's try not to say no. This is what trips people up. They're like, if you don't correct them, how will they ever learn? So really good example. It's on me to try and catch her succeeding here. Let's see. There's nothing wrong at all with saying the word no. However, I point this out to show how overused and unnecessary it is in so many cases. For example,
that I agree with, right? A lot of people throw no around everywhere, right? You say no every 4 seconds for things. The dog hasn't even made a mistake yet. You're telling them no. You're preemptively telling them no to try to stop them from jumping on somebody, this, that. I agree with you with that. Now, let's break down some science here, right? The door closing. So the dog started kind of getting up, and he closed the door really quick to get the dog not to do so. That is positive punishment. He is implementing an aversive event. And again, he defined aversive as you are applying... Hang on a second.
Oh, knocking tacks off the wall, huh?
Don't need anybody fucking poking their foot out.
No.
Don't need none of that. I'll tell you that.
There you go.
He's defining aversive event as something that is physically harmful, right, or physically painful. It doesn't necessarily need to be that. It just has to be anything that the dog perceives as aversive, right? It's not just fit. We talk about this. That doesn't just include physically aversive things. That includes emotionally aversive events, right? Even though that door didn't even hit the puppy, that closing quickly on them, like that first drill he was doing where he just open, close before the dog even tried to get out, that sudden closing is kind of like, whoa, whoa, whoa. It startles the dog just enough to get it to understand waiting, which is the use of positive punishment. We are adding positive something to the equation to decrease the likelihood of a behavior. We're adding the door closing to decrease the likelihood of the dog wanting to rush out of the crate.
Yeah.
Right? Our use of aversives within those quadrants can vary in intensity based on anything. He also used the example of him restricting the dog from getting to the squirrel or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Right? When that dog hits the end of the leash and he holds steady on that tension and then releases that tension when the dog turns to him and marks and rewards it, that is negative reinforcement. We are removing pressure. So pressure's on. We're restricting the dog from getting to that thing, removing pressure when the dog makes the correct choice to increase the likelihood of the dog turning with us. He's just relying more heavily on the food in order to do that and using the absolute minimal amount of negative reinforcement that he can to get the dog to shift its behavior towards him, which is still the use of negative reinforcement. It doesn't have to be a huge consequence, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be this massive pop on the door, right? It could be like what we always preach, as little pressure as we can, but as much as we need to. So he's still using those concepts. He's just saying that he's trying to avoid using them as much as he can, right? And he is avoiding doing anything furtherly proactive, right, to stop the behaviors, right? Which, you know, you're still doing it.
Yeah.
You're just choosing not to go past a certain level of intensity that you're inducing.
Yeah. Well, do you think, you know, since it fits his narrative, that he doesn't consider it, you know, in
they
that
don't
punishment?
they don't consider it, but it still is no different than, right? Let me use an example here, right? You're outside and it starts raining, right? And for an animal, a dog is outside. It starts raining, and then the dog walks under a shelter and realizes that it's no longer getting rained on.
Yeah.
That is negative reinforcement, right? The rain fell, right? And they escaped that sensation by going under shelter, right? So all of these happen scientifically just in nature, whether we're proactively doing them or not. We're just failing to understand that and accept that and then implement it on our own in order to teach things more efficiently.
Yeah. I was going to say, do you think it's just him not really understanding the science?
No. I think they understand it.
Yeah.
The problem is because they're preaching a narrative to general dog owners who are seeing every day how effective punishment is, right? Like he said, like 75% of his colleagues are all balanced dog trainers or more, right? Those people wouldn't be doing it if this was so effective.
True.
You know what I mean? Like, there's a reason why so many people are doing it. And there's a reason why so many owners subscribe to it. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's not that. It's the narrative that has to be fit.
I were relying on disciplining or correcting her here for not behaving as I wanted to in the crate. I don't think I would see her optimistic body language like those bright eyes coupled with her tail wagging and holding her position. And again, I understand that tail wagging doesn't always mean a dog is happy, but the totality of her body language here appears as though she's in a reduced stress state. So my back is turned. I'm gonna just let her check out for just a second, not too long, because I still want her engaged in this particular training session. But I'm gradually trying to simulate more and more realistic conditions.
Add some 3, 2, 1.
Yes.
Tabs was turned into the shelter as a stray. When we got her, we took x-rays and sent them over to our
Okay. We've communicated so strongly that staying in the crate works for her that she's actually reluctant to come out of it. Okay, come on. Good girl.
We could still argue that he closed the door, not forcefully, I understand, but blocked her behavior enough times that she perceived that event to be aversive enough to not come out of the crate.
Yeah.
There's nobody here that's showing that that's not the case.
Yeah.
Right? Because he used a balanced approach. Now, let me show, again, where I agree with him with certain things. He's working with a puppy right now. This dog looks like it's 9 weeks old or something like that. This is a young dog. Yeah, you shouldn't even be thinking about aversives at this point. No. Past just general day-to-day, I'm blocking you with the crate door. I'm blocking you at the front door when you try to rush out of it. I'm holding a leash to stop you from trying to go over to this thing, et cetera, et cetera. You shouldn't even be thinking about aversives at this point. Because with a young dog, technically, if we're going to be as fair as possible, you need to teach the expectations before you're going to punish for the expectations. So again, I agree with him in this context of, do your crate drills with your food. Use the absolute minimal amount of aversive possible using the crate door, using your leash, using et cetera, in order to teach these types of things.
But technically, if it was positive only, would it be he would only be doing it with the food, not closing the door?
Yeah, I mean, so you would have to eliminate any sort of perceived aversive in that case, right? So yeah, I mean, technically speaking, he would keep that crate door open, and if he wanted to teach the dog to not come out of the crate using a positive only or force-free method, you would not be closing the door. You also, let's talk about something else a dog could perceive as aversive. Spatial pressure. Say the dog starts coming out and I walk quickly into them, right? That is still implementing typically negative reinforcement at that point. I'm applying pressure, then releasing pressure when the dog does the correct thing, right? That would technically be negative reinforcement, right? But I wouldn't even apply that because a dog could perceive me walking quickly into them as psychologically aversive.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So again, getting into we're using all of the science. You're just using very, very subtle versions of it.
Yeah.
Right? So.
She had to think there, and that's really what we're trying to make happen here. She's like, being in here is wonderful, yes. That's what's so fun about positive reinforcement training. You get to really find lots of fun reasons to interact with your dog in a way that they enjoy and you enjoy. And I mean, just watching her learn is special, isn't it?
I also completely agree with that, right? It is so much funner using positive. When we get dogs that come in for, say, one-on-one classes, because we're in more of a time constraint for that, and they don't have any food drive or any toy drive or anything like that, we always have the conversation with owners first, like, hey, listen, we would really like to develop this, because if you could start learning how to teach the dog and motivate the dog and reward the dog, it's going to be funner for everybody.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Totally agree. And watching the gears turn, like in board and trains, for example, I spend an ridiculous amount of time trying to build motivation with dogs, right? We have a dog in for a 5-week board and train right now. We're 2 weeks into it, and I haven't even started any e-collar training or anything because I'm trying to develop this dog's drive as much as I can, right?
Yeah.
And we talk about, too, like when we send dogs home from the board and train program, first week home, I'm instructing them to use as little correction as they can for their obedience training to develop a good working relationship with the dog on the rewards and stuff. Because we could always be more firm on them later on if they start truly showing that they're blowing the owner off. But it is hard to go back and reestablish that relationship once you've been too firm on them right off the rip. So I agree with a lot. I really do agree with a lot of the concepts he's discussing. The thing that kills me every time is just the fact that they call what we're doing not scientific. It is scientific.
Yeah.
These are proven things. Humans learn from all of those quadrants. Animals learn from all of those quadrants.
Yeah.
They're scientific.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, interesting moment there. It's like she started to break, and then she
Closing the
sat,
crate door.
and then I preemptively
Right?
released her, and she's like, no.
Now, why is she staying in there? Because she probably perceives that crate door closing quickly on her when she starts to come out as aversive and doesn't want it to happen again.
Yeah, exactly.
That's literally it. That's infuriating because that is a correction.
Yeah.
You could call it not a correction because it's not super physically harmful, but it is an aversive event that's happening to the dog.
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking too, because you were talking about food drive and stuff. What would he do? Like what? How does he
With
go
a dog
about?
with no food
drive? With no food drive.
You develop it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
You'd
listen,
have
like
to.
that's not something it is something we have to be aware of because you get into the human emotion side of things, right? With owners. And actually, there's a good sidebar conversation real quick for a second here. So in my opinion, every single dog on the face of the planet has food drive. Most owners just crush that food drive by heavily overfeeding the dog or giving too many high-value treats or just whatever,
Yeah.
And technically speaking, a positive-only trainer would make the owner adjust that and develop food drive with the dog. But look at how much emotion is attached to food let's look at just humans, for example, right? And you look at people trying to diet or lose weight or this or that and the emotional attachment they have to food and how there's this shift right now to like unhealthy mental capacities around food and being scared to eat too much and this, you know what I mean? Like there's so much emotion behind food and the withholding of food.
Oh yeah.
Then tack onto it the emotional investment people have in their dogs and the fact that 90% of people that have rescue dogs feel like their dog was so neglected and abused in the past and starved and maybe they got them really skinny and this and that, that they feel like this dog, in order to live a happy, healthy life, needs to have unlimited access to food 24/7, right? And I could fight that fight with some people. I could stand on my fucking hill all day long and tell you that's not the case. Your dog's not going to perceive that. You're actually doing them more harm than good by feeding them too much because then it's going to make the training process harder for them.
Yeah.
Right? And then, God, don't even get me started about when you start having the conversation with people about your dog's overweight. Right? Dude, some people, that's like the trigger point for them. Yeah. And you figure those are conversations I'm going to have with people at some point, but I have to develop a relationship with the person first, built on trust in order to have that relationship. If day one when I meet them, I tell them, your dog's fat, all of your love and affection you're giving them in the form of the treats and the toys and the table scraps and this and that is actually inhibiting all of their ability to do everything. And you're doing this wrong and you're doing this wrong. And you need to quote unquote starve your dog. And they leave.
Yeah.
Right? They're going to be like, fuck this guy.
Yeah.
I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Right?
A little too aversive on the humans.
I can't get that aversive on everybody.
Yep.
So yes, I agree. Those dogs should have food drive. And when they're in for board and train, they will have food drive because I have control over those types of things. Right? But in one-on-one classes, I run a big risk with that. I run a big risk of right off the rip, before we've even started training, pissing that owner off beyond belief to the point where they're not into it, And then you get into some dogs it takes a couple weeks. Sometimes it takes a month for them to totally start to redevelop that food drive after having such an unhealthy relationship with their food.
That's true.
It's tough.
Yeah, it is.
So that's the thing. They would go about saying, well, you need to develop the food drive or I won't work with you, right? I still know that I have other ways I could teach the dog, and then little by little fight that fight of developing the food drive to make the training more fun for the dog later on.
Yeah.
I'll stay here instead. I'm thrilled with this training session right here. She's not perfect yet for her first training session on this particular thing. I think this was a great example of how to connect with the dog in a way that is enjoyable for you and your dog. By the way, so many of you have been asking about our sponsor's crate, the Diggs Revel. It's really sturdy and high quality, and I love that it gives you lots of options for your dog to reward them from the top, for example. And unlike most dog crates, it actually looks good. I'll have a link below. Now, one of the more advanced tasks that I'm working on with Biscuits is teaching her how to go to and stay at a predetermined mark. In this case, a cutting board. You might remember we were using the cutting board to get her to go to her, to go to her mark. Okay, Let's see if we can get her.
Why don't you just use a dog bed?
I know. Gotta use a cutting board.
Or like a mat or a blanket.
I know.
Why a cutting board?
I don't know.
I mean, listen, if you want to use a cutting board, I don't have an issue with that.
Yeah.
I don't understand it, though.
Little warmed up real quick. Believe it or not, we see many trainers use electric collars to teach a dog how to go to a spot and stay like this,
Believe it or
using
not.
electric collars on a low level, which provides a constant, slightly unpleasant feeling to the dog until the dog inadvertently stumbles upon the mark, at which time they'll release.
Okay.
Inadvertently.
Jesus fucking Christ. This guy. This guy's clueless.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about, believe it or not, some people use electric collars to just provide an uncomfortable sensation until the dog just stumbles and just eventually kind of figures it out. Okay, there's prep work that goes into this. Like, it doesn't just, let's say we have a dog that has no food drive, and I'm going to teach the place command or the bed command using an e-collar. Let me talk about how that works, right? So first and foremost, I'm going to make sure before I ever implement the electronic sensation, and I'm going to make sure the dog understands how to do it physically first, using the leash. So I'll take the leash, and I'm not even talking a prong collar or anything. I'm talking about the same shit this guy does when he tries to stop the dog from lunging at a squirrel or something. I apply just a little bit of pressure and guide the dog onto the object.
Yeah.
Guide the dog onto the object. Guide the dog onto the object. Guide the dog onto the object. I do that a bunch of times until I can check the box that I know with 100% certainty that in a very, very, very short period of time that I could guide the dog onto this object and they understand what we're doing. Right?
You mean they're not
From there, we use our shock collar at a low level that is a slightly annoying sensation, right? No different than, you ready for this?
Yeah.
See this? You can do this to me all day long, and it'll probably annoy the fuck out of me eventually.
Yeah.
Right? But I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
Right? So
You'll
see,
be all right.
I'm even doing it harder.
Ooh.
Right? Okay. Yeah, it's annoying. I want it to stop. Stop. Right? So
Nice.
we use the collar at a sensation that's like that.
Yeah.
Right?
It stumbles.
I tell the dog the command. I give the cue, right?
Yeah.
I apply the pressure continuously, right? And I immediately help the dog onto position.
Yeah.
So we're talking like a couple seconds, right? Not even 1 second, let's say, right? Bed, do, off.
Yep.
Bed, do, off. Bed, do, off. Through repetition, the dog learns that they can avoid that sensation by just going to the bed on just the command.
Yeah.
Right? That's exactly how it's implemented. If the dog has food drive, we do the process like he's doing right now with the food first until the dog understands how to do it. And then we implement that sensation in situations where the dog is blowing you off because guess what? Outside distractions are a real thing. Outside variables, outside reinforcements are a very real thing. What if somebody's at my front door and I'm trying to do this with rewards and my person likes people more than they like that cookie that's in his hand? There's nothing I could do about it, which is why we implement aversives in addition to doing all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And this groundwork he's doing right now, I would do this exactly how he's doing it right now with a puppy. I would teach it with just the food.
Yeah.
That's it.
The pressure of the electric stimulation, and that's literally what the dog is working for. Now look, if that method were the only way, or even a more effective way, I could attempt to appreciate it. But here I'm doing an experiment and seeing if I can do this by relying exclusively on positive reinforcement training. And without using this unnecessary step of providing an unpleasant consequence to the dog, in this case, electric stimulation at their neck. You can see how adding the component of distance, me being farther back over there, seems to make it a little more complicated. I can reliably get her to do it by coming over here. Yes. And walking with her. Can I phase in a hand signal?
What is he
this way?
showing me?
Okay. Come on, let's go.
The dog's not doing it. Like,
Yes. Second she makes contact. Okay. With that cutting board. Here. Yes.
like, yes, I'm glad you could teach the dog how to do something with a reward with no distractions around.
Yeah.
I agree, right? Like, I know you can do that. I'm not denying, nobody's denying that. But real life is not no distractions around.
No.
Okay. Yes. Go to your spot.
Okay. We
Here's
talked
a
about
fair
this too. Commands, just one word.
Yeah.
Not go to your spot.
Go to your spot.
Spot. Bed. Place.
her doing
Look
something
and the
I
dog's
definitely
chewing
don't want
on
her
the
doing.
freaking...
I don't want her scratching at her mark like that. How can you use positive reinforcement exclusively in an instance where your dog is doing something that you definitely don't want them to do? Biscuits! Yes! And see, even there, it's tempting to really get in there and say, no, don't do that. But really, if you give them that alternative thing to do, in this case...
You're withholding good information to give clarity, right? If I'm trying to get you to not do something and I just keep directing you onto other things, you're going to be contingent on my micromanagement to not do the improper thing.
Yeah.
Right? Which is what they show here. And here's the thing, right? Positive reinforcement by definition increases behavior. Yes, it increases the other behaviors that the dog does, but it doesn't eliminate behaviors from your dog's repertoire. Right?
Yeah.
So just because they could do a come command and you could stop them from doing that in that moment with the come command doesn't mean they're going to not try to do it again later.
Yeah, exactly.
And then not try to do it again later. And then not try to do it again later.
Yeah, it's like you're overlooking the problem, like kind of throwing it under the rug.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it's still there though.
Yeah, exactly.
To me, did you see the spirit with which she was running towards me? That's what we want. Her mood isn't killed. You're not frustrated. The magic moment comes when she's looking at my finger and then looks ahead of her. That's what I'm looking for. Yes. Love how she's troubleshooting. Okay, come. Good. I'm going to elect not to reward there, just to keep it random. Starting to phase out treats a bit. Let me give her a point. Yes. Yes. Give her a little guidance back there to get all 4 paws on there. Yes. Notice how she's not breaking on the word yes. She knows the difference between yes and the letters O and K. By walking around her, I'm kind of encouraging her to reorient herself too. I have no idea what that's about.
And why don't you show us how you redirect the dog back on the fucking cutting board? Jesus Christ. Or how about you bring out the real life distraction, which is your wife and your other fucking dog, and show us how you're going to teach it.
Yeah.
What do you see, girl? What is it?
This drives me crazy. Show us.
You must
Come
have
on.
heard something
Show us.
in the bedroom. I've got inertia in there. You can see her piloerection right here. It's where their hair stands up. Usually means a dog is a little unsure. So in this case, I'm not going to yell at Biscuits or discipline her. I'm going to give her a second to recalibrate when she realizes this isn't really getting her anything and see what happens. The real goal of training dogs is to teach them how to think for themselves and problem solve. Go to your spot. Yes. Nice. Very good.
So you showed just how ineffective force-free training is. With the most minor of distractions. Your dog heard something in another room.
Yeah.
Something that's always there. Your wife and other dog is always there.
Yeah.
But she heard it and was too distracted to comply with the command. Jesus.
Okay, good. Releasing her. Go to your spot. Yes. And you remember? Yes! Good. You see how she put
Also,
him on
let's
there
talk about the
first?
slop in this training for a minute. If your criteria, he said at 1.4 paws on it, every single one of those last repetitions, the dog only had 2 paws on or put 4 on, then step back off. There's no consistency behind the expectation, so the dog doesn't know exactly what to do. Especially if yes means to him that you need to maintain position, which is like what our good marker is. If you mark with yes and then the dog makes the mistake and you still reward them for it, they're not clearly understanding that.
Yeah.
Point. While this skill is so often trained with negative reinforcement or applying a physical punisher, I want to let you decide if it looks easier and more pleasant to the dog to train it using positive reinforcements. Mixing play like this in with training can really be beneficial. Maybe that's in the form of playing with a dog or fetch or anything, but it's a really good way for their brain to reset. She's a terror. I mean, I was a kid who loved recess, so I don't know about you guys, but that's what it reminds me of. Notice how cautious Inertia is to not step on her with her back feet. And I hear some of you out there, right, Zach, that's all great, but what do you do when you're out of your nice, cozy living room and you gotta go train in the real world? That is how some of you sound, you know. But I applaud the question. Let's make our way down the mountain.
Snowy. This is Zach's literal first time driving on snow.
Where I'm from in Atlanta, if there's ice anywhere in the city on the road, we're shut down. And here, it's solid snow. I got 4-wheel drive though, baby. Well, all-wheel drive.
Kia ad?
Yeah, Kia.
Fortunately, down here, there's no snow. When you're having your dog exit the car, it's a really vital time to teach them how to stay in this specific context.
Yep. Oh, a different.
I would have died if that was a Kia ad.
That would have been hilarious.
Died.
Yes, good. I'm just reminding her, because I actually haven't done this in public yet. You can see there's a car coming, so we're going to be extra careful here. Always be aware of your surroundings. Notice I haven't said stay either. In other words, with her, I think it's good if she just assumes this is how I behave when a human comes near the crate. Here. Okay, let's go. Good girl. Got a little bit of traffic out here today. Nice amount of healthy distractions, socialization opportunities. Wow, isn't this place beautiful? Love good dog training weather. Now, we all know that going in public with a dog presents tons of unknowns. I mean, you can expect just about anything from mundane, everyday events to, I don't know, a giant parachute monster coming out of the ground and charging at biscuits. Oh, wow. Holy cow. Oh, well, shoot. I didn't even think about it, but she's trying to gain distance. In training, there's lots of different options when it comes to handling an issue like this. And believe it or not, some trainers would actually firmly correct a dog for leaving the immediate area of the trainer, even though the dog was scared by something. And the way that a trainer may justify
Okay, let's talk about that for a minute. First off, not always, but let's say I have a dog that has a major flight risk. I have a dog that runs away anytime they're scared of something, right?
Yeah.
Which is a very serious problem that some people have. Mm-hmm. I don't care if a dog has initial startle response to something, right? If a dog gets a little startled by something and tries to give itself a little bit of distance, I have no problem with that, right? But if the dog gets startled, creates distance, then takes off. Yes, I would give a correction for that because that's a safety concern.
Yeah.
What if your dog slips out of its collar or its leash, right? What if your training tool fails in that moment that you're using, right? Your harness or whatever it may be, and your dog runs into the street and gets hit by something. Like those are, again, more real things that could possibly happen, which is why corrections are important for some of this stuff.
Is, look, I've got to keep my dog safe. They can't be running away from me like this. They need to know you got to stay in my immediate area no matter what and trust me. And the aim is noble. I understand why they do that. But I have to ask myself, is there a way to help a dog work through an event like this without forcing them to stay in one spot? I like to avoid...
This dog isn't traumatized by that thing. This dog was just like, hey, I'm going to run over to the camera person. And you know, I got a little startled by this, so I'm going to go back to mom. Right? Yeah. This dog isn't like, I'm in a full-on panic and I'm going to actually take off. Yeah. Which is the dogs we're referring to in these situations. Yeah. So again, you got to... This whole video that he's doing right now, I get the point of it. He's trying to argue... Like, every time I say a point, he's obviously making a counterpoint to it, which I can appreciate and I can get, obviously, right? The problem is this dog is not the example we would be using for it. I would not teach a dog how to not rush out of the crate using firm aversives with this dog. I would not teach the dog how to get onto place with firm aversives with this dog. Yeah. I would not teach the dog to stay in my space with firm aversives with this dog. I would use a lot of positive reinforcement initially, and I would use minor intensities of negative reinforcement or positive punishment just to kind of get the point across until the dog got older. And if they still made that choice, then I would get more firm.
Yeah, well, he knew what he was doing. He was like, I'm going to take on this with
little
a puppy.
Yeah.
A dog who's experiencing fear, as I don't want to amplify that fear by doing something that's unpleasant.
Like, look, she's scared. She's going back to mom. That's
training in the future. I mean, dogs remember things. They could easily remember, hey, that one time I was scared, I had that additional stressful event imposed upon me, that unpleasant correction, and now I'm not so into that training session. So what I opt to do in these situations is allow them to seek safety within reason. In this case, Biscuits wanted to walk away. And ideally, I like them to be able to observe the thing that's causing them to feel uncomfortable from a safe distance. She's learned she could come to me for safety here. I'm going to let her take it in from her level. Looks like they're doing lessons of some kind to learn how to fly them, huh? And so in a case like this where she's made sense of the parachute, probably, I'm in a position to reinforce now her newfound confidence. One thing I'm really paying attention to is what is the ratio between her willingness to pay attention to me during a training lesson versus her wanting to check out her environment. I'm hoping to really balance those two things. It's also really beneficial to understand what your dog is into at any given moment. Not always easy, by the way. Now, all of us know that Biscuits has been knocking it out of the park on lie down from her past lessons. Do you remember lie down? But look at her right here. She's not honoring my request
Don't ask
to lie
it as a
down.
question.
And it seems really tough for her to remember lie down out here. This is something she was doing at the house so well very recently. The aversive approach here would be, look, I know you know this. I'm going to make you do it. So you understand.
No, the dog doesn't know it yet. It's just a puppy. You're skipping the whole generalization phase, which is exactly what he's probably going to say in a minute here. Again, I agree with you, Zach, with most of this stuff with this individual dog, right? This is a puppy that once we teach down, because dogs don't learn through pictures, it's normal that when you go into a new environment like that the dog hasn't been in, that they're not going to do lie down.
Yeah.
Just call it down in the first place, that they're not going to do it very well. And you have to go through the process of reteaching and reinforcing. I agree with that. When I would implement a harsh correction for not lying down is when I've taught it and I've generalized it and we've been working on it for freaking ever, and the dog is still choosing not to do it in that moment because they're reacting at another dog. Or they're distracted by what's going on over there or whatever it may be. That's not the situation we would use in aversive.
No.
Dog that this is not optional. But in reality, I really need to do my best to understand things from her perspective. For example, is the texture of the grass throwing her off? Is it all the distractions? Is it the environment?
Of
Is
course.
it some
She hasn't
scent in the
generalized it
air?
yet.
All of these things should be considered as potential contributors to her not complying with my request. So while I could just as easily stand on the leash or force her to lie down to take direction from me, she'd most likely not be in the most optimistic mindset moving forward, and that can kill your progress. Ideally, I really want her in a favorable state of mind, not only now, but in future instances like this later in life. It's not just as simple as getting your dog to do whatever it is you're trying to get them to do. You have to consider their overall mindset. So instead, I'm thinking, okay, let's not push the issue here. Let her check out the things around her. And what can I do to become more interesting to her and more worth listening to? You know, a genuinely fun attitude and good treats often go a really long way. Remember, lie down. Yes, good. Okay, good. We really need to be tolerant of that. Such a young dog or any dog who's unsocialized with the world. Good girl. Okay, good job.
I also agree with that. If a dog is, let's say a dog is under socialized with the things going on around them, I'm going to pick the easiest possible thing for them to be successful with initially, which is why a lot of times, like at the park around the corner and stuff, we just work on our leash walking through there. I'm not focused on, you know, downs and comes and beds and stuff like that until I've gotten the dog more acclimated to doing the most baseline working in that environment. So this is where we get back to, remember we did that like Sophia Yin post where we looked at similarities? There's so many similarities between this kind of stuff in so many places where I do agree with a lot of these things. The underlying problem, though, is again discrediting the methods we're using as not scientific, and in addition to that, discrediting that at some point your dog will want something else in the environment more and may display a potentially dangerous behavior that warrants the use of a correction in that situation.
Yes. I like how she just goes back in the sit. Right now, I mean, we're just doing some screensaver training, but I'm really acknowledging that she's behaving well and calmly around all these distractions out here today. This is good. But then again, for whatever reason, I don't know what's going on in her head, Biscuits becomes uneasy when a couple of young people walk by. An aversive approach would likely require me to deliver a prompt physical correction to quell that symptom, the barking. But my goal isn't to stop the barking. My goal is to focus on the cause, most likely Biscuits' lack of exposure to strangers appearing out of nowhere in her short life. And in this case, just being a little understanding was all that was necessary to get a prompt recovery. Oh, one of the things that I'm hoping to...
That was a consequence. Dog started charging, smacked into the end of the leash, and was like, whoa, didn't like that.
work on with her today that's a bit new to her is come to me when she's distracted. This is the first artificial distraction I'm going to use out here. You can see how much she loves it. Here you go. Get that toy. Sit. Here. Okay. Yes, there we go. Good start. I'm loving it. See if we can improve on that. One of the great things about an exercise like this is that you can really start to combine things like leave it, look at me, come, sit, throw and lie down there. And you can see how well, I mean, first time, every time there, that was a nice little example. I think really one of the bigger takeaways from this particular lesson with me is the tempo. It's like, sometimes she'll give me 10 seconds, sometimes she'll give me 2 minutes, and then she needs a break. And if you can really be there to capitalize on it when they are willingly giving you their attention, over time, that will trend into being able to get their attention when you ask for it. It's really interesting getting to know her. This is why we're always talking about getting to know your individual dog and understanding them, because not all dogs respond the same way. She's getting a ton of socialization of tall grass today. I appreciate that. Tall grass is something she's gonna have to deal with. I mean, most grass is probably taller than her anyway. Biscuits.
Oh,
Come.
Lord.
Dogs aren't just little robots, they are actual life forms, and they will act unpredictably at times. And I'm under no illusion that because I like to train a certain way that this is somehow going to change the way everyone trains their dogs. And I expect the world will go on, but we'll all continue to do what we think is best for the dogs that we work with. And for those of you with puppies or dogs of any age, get 50% off your first pup box when you sign up using my special link, pupbox.com/Zak, and use discount code Zak. And check out
Jeez
Dig's
Louise.
awesome Revel Crate 2. I'll have a link below. Subscribe to this channel and check out both of my books for more dog training
that was it.
info. And of course, follow us on Instagram and TikTok too. We'll see you guys in the next episode.
Oh boy. Listen, for I don't know how old that dog is, obviously, but for how young the dog is, hell yeah. Again, all of that is great, you know? Like doing all of your groundwork and teaching all your behaviors and starting the socialization process and starting the generalization process are all 100% accurate.
Yeah.
I agree with every single ounce of that. Every single ounce of that, right? We're just ignoring the real life side of things.
Yes.
Because he has a puppy. He was able to get away with saying, well, we're still so young in things right now. You know?
Yeah.
All right, well, let's see that puppy in 6 months.
Yeah.
Let's see that puppy in 8 months. See that puppy in 10 months.
Yeah. I know.
I don't know.
It's
just it will never not be infuriating. It will never not be infuriating.
Yeah.
You know, the complete denial of people will say that a peer-reviewed study that was done in a box is a more accurate resemblance of the training's effectiveness than looking at real life owners and the success they've been able to achieve with their dogs.
Yeah.
Which is just insane.
I know. I just really hate that, like, he used the puppy. Like, it was just a ploy to, like, make his side look even better, you know?
Yep.
And that's what stinks. It's like, if you really wanted to comment on it, yeah, you should have been using an older dog. Use his dog. I don't know why he didn't just use his dog.
Yeah. Well, I think he wanted to show a dog that was in the middle of the training process, which I
Yeah.
get. You know, his dog is quote unquote trained at this point, and is probably going to be pretty fluent with all of those types of things, obviously. But
Yeah.
you know, yeah. I mean, the point remains obviously that you know a dog that has out of the box more issues, that you're not shaping things from the ground up, is also another big reason why we use a balanced approach.
Yep.
If you can control every single aspect of your puppy's life forever, yes, you can get away with using a lot less aversives with things. You can, you know, you still have to use them or else you're going to be playing management forever, you know?
Yeah.
But you could get away with a lot more that way because you could use less pressure to shape their experiences, you know?
Yeah.
But with an older dog that, you know, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, that already has a history of really, really negative behaviors, it ain't going to be so easy.
Nope.
So that's it. I mean, we're going to end that on that. I just wanted to go over that video. We're obviously
one.
not going to have any time for anything else, but I think that was good.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, man.
just make your own judgment on this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I had a couple conversations with people. I talked about, you know, we've had a lot of inquiries lately. We've been very, very busy. I've been on the phone a lot with people. And, you know, people are like, oh, yeah, I'm shopping around. I'm looking for trainers, this, that. And I tell every single one of them, I was like, listen, you know, whoever you wind up going with, I'm not going to be offended if you go to somebody else over us, right? But whoever you wind up going with, just do your research. I told him, I was like, you need to watch and look at their testimonials, right? If you can't find testimonials on the trainer that you're about to work with of people describing similar issues to what you're having, you probably should find somebody who has the experience, because anybody could say, I could help you with these problems. But unless you have actual people that paid them money that are saying, I actually was helped with these problems, that's something you probably should look into. You should be looking at videos that trainer may post, right, that showcase a competency of not only working with dogs with similar issues, but a competency of training as a whole, right? Do they sound like they know what they're talking about, right? I had somebody that said, I worked with a trainer before, and anytime I asked them a question, it sounded like they were reading off of a script, Which is normal. I mean, a lot of people regurgitate information, but don't actually understand the information that they're regurgitating, right? So can that trainer actually answer all of your questions that you have and sound knowledgeable about that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Right? And 3, can you relate to them? Do you feel like you develop a connection with them when you talk to them? Right? Yeah. You need to check all of those boxes with any trainer that you work with, whether it's a positive only trainer, right? If you actually agree with all the things they're saying as far as the things you'll have to do and the things you'll have to not do and this and that, go for it. I'm not saying you can't achieve some degree of success because everybody's definition of success is different.
Yeah.
Right? For some people, just the ability to work their dog for some treats is success if they're not having major issues. Managing jumping and managing crate anxiety and barking and this and that and just like being okay with those things, that could be success to some people. That's fine. Yep. I'm not saying you're wrong by that, right? I'm just saying I hold my dogs to a higher standard than that, and a lot of my clients hold their dogs to a higher standard than that.
Yep.
So those are the things you need to keep in mind when it comes to all this kind of stuff. So we'll continue watching current things that come out, discussing them. There's another kind of just frustrating post that I saw, obviously, and just wanted to kind of go over and talk about. So glad we watched it. If you guys have any questions on any of that, let us know. We'll continue for the next one.
All right. See ya.